I would not make Salty Cracker wait. I'm going to bring in Salty Cracker. I think Barnes might be a little jealous because he's not here yet. But no, we've only got him for a limited time. He's coming in salty. I can see what you're doing. But get dressed. I'm joking. Okay, I'm joking. 3, 2, and a 1. Salty, sir, how goes the battle?
Good morning. I'm hoping that everything's working smooth like butter, considering this is the second time in 5 years that I've used StreamYards.
I have not had a bad experience with StreamYards yet. Let me just see if chat, let me know if the audio is balanced between the two of us. Holy crab apples, Salty. You have an active and dedicated fan base. The shaker is coming.
The ravenous sons of bees. Watch this. This is going to be the first broadcast done by a mullet madman that's PG rated. We're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna give it a shot.
I'm in slow mode, and it's 15 seconds slow mode. I can't keep up with the chat. It's done. I'm not even going to try anymore. Salty. Okay, man. So I look. I don't want to ask personal questions that you don't disclose. This is our first time actually speaking. I've seen a ton of your stuff. My neighbor down the street said back when I was a newbie to the interwebs, have you heard of Salty Cracker? You'd love him. And then I started watching, and I do love. But where are you from? For the elevator pitch for my audience who might not know who you are, elevator pitch. Who are you?
Elevator pitch. I'm a much uglier Brian Stelter, everybody. I mean, look at that Quato on my forehead over there. Boom! That's right. We will do self-deprecating humor on other people's channel as well as our own, Mad Lads. But this is what you're watching is a person who was really naive just like 10 years ago. I voted for Obama. I'm sorry. Voted for Obama, drank all the Kool-Aid, watched CNN, and then I was like, oh, they're lying to me. Call out the line, then you get called a Nazi. I'm like, oh, we're gonna play this game? Okay. I was raised by sailors. Let's go at it. Let's do this.
Well, so here's a real question. Were you in fact raised by sailors?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
every man in my family has been in the military, except for me. I'm the only I enlisted in the digital armed services, I'm guessing. But every single man in my family, except for me, has went out and put their life on the line for this country.
Where are you from?
California.
So you're born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
How many siblings? Just to get the obvious one out of the question. Are you an only child, or are you the youngest of 7?
No. Youngest. I got an older brother and a younger sister.
Okay, I mean, born and raised in California, you've grown up in the blue of blue. I mean, let me ask you the obvious question. May I ask how old you are?
Yeah, 42.
Hey, we're the same age, man. When's your birthday?
November.
Okay, so I'm older than you I've got 6 months of suckling at the teats experience on you. 42, you've lived in California your whole life. Have you noticed a change in the state since when you were young to now? A real change or a perceived change in your experience?
Oh no, it's a real change. It's a real change. California is suffering from massive woke stockholder syndrome, and in the last, I was clearly the last 8 years, it's gone insane. When I was a kid, we would take our bikes into San Francisco to ride those glorious hills. And nobody ever like you might come across a condom every now and then, and there was homeless people, but when you see these stories, and we joke about this all the time on this channel about the streets being full of fecal matter. That's not a joke. If you take the BART system into San Francisco, you can smell fecal matter, you can smell urine, you can smell methamphetamine. It's a woke milieu of absolute offenses to your senses.
I like that. It rhymes. This would make for good lyrics for Tom McDonald. Offenses to your senses. I mean, you talk to people? What's the sentiment of people who are living through this? Do they hate it? Are those who are well off indifferent to it because they're sort of unaffected by it, or does everyone say this is crap, but we don't know who to blame?
No, at this point now, I grew up, I would say, entry level, middle class. I mean, my family didn't have they weren't poor, but we were entry level middle class. So I don't know what the rich people are doing, but I do know the rich people, they flee in this place. They flee in this place. Business owners are fleeing this place. People who are just trying to make a living are fleeing this place. And the way that my wife and I operate is that we hit them with a snook of a question. We try to drop it under them and go, oh man, our fence got tagged this week. And then just kind of see how, because you got these numbnuts out there that'll be like, oh, well, that's great. That's super duper great. Well, that's just like urban culture that's being gifted to you. I'm like, no, prick. I got to paint this off my fence. And this, it's a destruction to your neighborhood. And some people, and it's mostly women. I hate to say it like this because it plays right into this left-wing narrative that I'm a misogynist. But this is we're just different people, humans, species, and so the women are being impacted by this, and they just buying into us. They're afraid to say, "No, this is crap," and I don't want needles and drugs all over the place. And they'll virtue signal on all these platforms how great they are, that they love it, but ain't nobody sending their kids to the park. I haven't seen a kid play at the park across the street from my house in 30 years.
I'm going to ask the politically.
What's going on, Barnes?
Robert, how you doing? I know Barnes is going to have questions on this subject. It's going to be the politically sensitive question. Is the tendency for people to avoid complaining about the phenomenon because they don't want to be accused of, it presupposes a certain demographic of sorts, I guess, but is the reluctance to critique this because nobody wants to be accused of, discrimination or some form of, wealth shaming? Like if you complain about it, you're not being tolerant to the poor, to the downtrodden. Is there that social pressure, or are people just living a willing lie?
Yeah. So the society in California has been completely restructured, and it's now a currency based on wokeism. And so these people who've never done anything in their life, who've absolutely built nothing, they've never done anything, they now have this sense of entitled power by how woke they are, how much Kool-Aid is in their hair. And they run around. This is the Stanford prison experiment writ large. And what they're doing is these people now go around and they henpeck everybody who doesn't put a rainbow flag in their doorway. They go through and they monitor you, and they go, well, I noticed that you didn't have a Black Lives Matter shirt on last Sunday during the Church of Wokeism that we did out here. I'm going to be calling your supervisor and stuff like this. And so you've got maybe 3 to 10% of the population over here that has this newfound cudgel that they can use to bludgeon everybody against. And they're just getting high off these fumes of power that they think that they have. And so people are just, your average normie in California is just trying to not get bludgeoned by these idiots.
When I talk to people like candidates and others about staying attuned to the sort of populist base, the two people I reference one is Alex Jones, which always surprises them a bit, but it always surprises me that they don't understand this. There's a guy who's got a very favorable rating of over 30 million Americans, according to YouGov, according to the media's own polls. This guy has more people who have a very favorable rating of him than voted in the entire Democratic presidential primary process. It's that kind of intensity. But the second one, which always throws them off because of the name, is they say you guys should be following Salty Cracker. So if you're running for the House, you're running for the Senate, you're running for state legislature, you have been as attuned to a big key part of the activist populist base as anybody out there. How did that come about? And how did you get? Well, one, how did you decide to get interested enough to go public and be involved in this space? But secondly, how did you get to the point where you're attuned to a key part of the base that you're not going to get from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and Newsweek and the little Mandarin parties in Manhattan and the Hamptons and DC and whatnot?
To be honest, it got started out of a sense of being just pissed off, noticing that I was completely and utterly lied to. One of the first instances of this is I was, watching MSNBC. I'm watching all of these people with their suits and their ties and their camera lighting, and they're laughing at Peter Schiff, telling them that a market crash is imminent. And I remember the roundtable. I remember them laughing at him, and then he was 100% right. And I was like, this is weird. And I'm looking around me. I was a teacher at that point, And everything that we were doing was completely opposite to what we were telling the parents. And I was sitting there going, everything I've been told is a lie, and everything that is going on is a lie. And so I'm saying this at the dinner table. And when you get that first red pill, you go through that 7 stages. And the first one is, I want to strangle somebody. And so I'm at the dinner table, and my wife is like, "You got to shut up, bro. Like, this is okay. I hear you. This is just too much. You got to calm down. You got to, I was like, well, I need an outlet. But then I was also keyed into the fact that you would see how these people would be attacked. The Alex Joneses of the world, the Peter Schiffs, all these people, the Gerald Celente, all of these people being attacked. And I was like, I need to make sure that if I'm going to start yelling about this, that this is the emergence of cancel culture. I don't want to get fired from my job. You can't say any of this stuff as a teacher. You can't even think this stuff as a teacher. These people got precogs in the basement of the schools, and they're sitting there going, that dude's not woke, and so they'll come get you. And so that's why I set up an auxiliary parallel tutoring system so I could be my own boss. Got that up and running, and then in between clients, I was just yelling about stupid stuff. There's a lot of, like, what Alex Jones does and what some of these other guys are doing. What they're doing is that they're talking about a lot of really specific stuff about the war that we're in, and it's incredibly important. But it also requires a ton of preloading and reading. And and what you watch the left-hand side do is they're upending our civilization, our society based off of emotion and irrational reaction to emotion. And so they don't need to, they understand that the average person out there isn't going to read 8 volumes to understand the war that we're in. And so when I started this off, I was hitting the culture war stuff because it's easy to see how stupid this is when these people aren't interested in making movies with Marvel movies, when they're more interested in virtue signaling with Star Wars and detonating a $4+ billion franchise in order to push a narrative. You can explain that to people in 4 minutes. And when you just start off creating as a content creator, you should keep yourself around 4 minutes, because if you're not reaching that many people, you need a lot of content. You got to hit 4 minutes. So that's kind of how this all started. And then I just did the opposite of what all of these people do. I listen to my audience. I don't attack my audience. I take the criticism. I take the feedback. I read the comments. I don't post a lot in the comment section, but I read what they're doing. I look at what they're saying, and I listen to them, and I understand that those people are in charge, and they help. This entire thing on this channel is just one gigantic group of pissed off and crazy people moving in one direction.
So I'll ask you one question. I'm gonna have to run and open a door for my wife, but this is where I always have the fears and the concerns. You see, pissed off, and I know when you say it, pissed off, crazy people. It's humorous, it's tongue in cheek, it's people who are frustrated with society. But do you not have a concern that people might take it to a step that, they might get encouraged or enraged to take it to the next level, which is above and beyond witty, sarcastic, salty internet humor?
Oh yeah, no, I don't worry about any of that. I understand the name of the game right now is if you continue to get big, you're going to be attacked no matter what. So whether it's correct or whether it's wrong, whether it's implied, none of that matters at this point. These people will make up and concoct their own ideas of what are going. You just saw this with Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok won't get everybody killed. Libs of TikTok is just showing everybody your dumb videos, you idiots. And so I'm coming at it from the premise that they've already called us white supremacists, Nazis, and terrorists. What else are they going to do with this? I mean, okay, so he sells shirts that says pissed off and crazy. And that person who did this over there, I'm not responsible for anybody's actions out there.
Now, in terms of violent conflicts and what have you, it always surprises me when I was on a show called The Durant, and they have a international audience, and part of their audience comes from the anti-war left, but the anti-war left is still rooted in just like left populist and Bernie Sanders style are still rooted in statist solutions. And the anti-war left is still rooted in anti-American, the evil American empire kind of logic, etc. So when I tell them the ordinary American doesn't want to get involved in some dumb foreign war, least of all for a coked up, corrupt guy with accounts in the Panama Papers in Ukraine. They honestly don't believe me. They think, no, America is this deeply militaristic country that Americans just can't wait to be Vikings and Mongols and just invade whatever land they can for some grandiose globalist purpose. Yeah, you've been one of the, when I was talking to House and Senate candidates saying, watch these communities and constituencies about this war, and you're going to see the populist base doesn't have an interest in going to fight in some place that's literally known as the borderlands in their own language, between a bunch of folks that we have nothing to do with, no business in, no interest in, least of all for some corrupt rogue like Zelensky, who's just dancing to the Colombian marching band every night.
In high heels.
Yeah, exactly. In high heels. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to add the visual. I mean, it's a literal wag the dog. I mean, we're watching a literal. It's like a parody of it. It's like what happens with Hollywood when they go woke. They write bad movies. It's like, I don't even mind going woke so much. At least write a good movie. Just don't make it a crap movie. But I mean, the deep state doesn't make false flags like they used to. That's for sure. But can you explain the? I mean, nobody's going to confuse this with the Reichstag fire, but in terms of your take on the desire of the Biden administration and so many of the Republican establishment to drag us into another foreign war.
Biden himself seems like he's the only one who's concerned about this. And I don't know if it's because clearly his kid is, you don't end up on the largest natural gas board of, I think, a nationalized company on accident in Ukraine, and now we're out there. I just saw we're sending another 500 every hour. We're sending another couple $100 million in the direction of this place. So, in the end of the day, it's money laundering. There's so many characters, the right side, the left side. They're all making a ton of money off of this. I think Biden and his cronies, aside from making money, need to protect the fact that they're all of their kids. You got John Kerry's kid in there, Nancy Pelosi's kids are in there, of course Hunter Biden's in there, and you'll find there's Republican kids in there too. They're all playing this game, and they're all making a lot of money. And the people who are suffering the most are these poor Ukrainian civilians who are caught in this meat grinder of criminal oligarchs laundering money through their place. And then I was reading a thing yesterday where I'm like, look at all of we're now telling other countries in NATO, send in all of your equipment, and then we'll replenish it. Well, that's more billions is probably the low end of it. We're going to replenish all of your missiles in Slovakia. Again, when you clean the poop up in San Francisco, then maybe we could start worrying about Ukraine. But the desire and the need and the amount of money and the effort that we're spending on this place over there doesn't all match up into the security needs of this country. Not nearly comparable to what Russia's facing. And so I'm just sitting there going, I'm just trying to figure out if Putin's on the side. I'm trying to figure out if Putin doesn't seem to be losing a whole bunch of, I don't know, political currency in his own place. They seem hopped up over there, and his economy seems to be bouncing back. I'm sitting there going, am I being played by the criminals in my state, my country, or am I being played by world criminals? That's the only part I'm trying to figure out right now.
Oh, sorry, I left this chat up here. Salty, in Canada, I mean, I presume you're familiar with what's going on in Canada, but Trudeau has been donating, shipping military weapons and whatever support to Ukraine to such a point where there's concerns now that our military could be depleted, that we don't have enough resources in our own military. We're not exactly entering any imminent conflict, but it's a bizarre thing that it's become an international movement for this particular conflict, for this particular area, compared to every other conflict, which has not mobilized the entire world, even though there might have been even clearer lines of good versus bad and innocent victims caught in the crossfire. In terms of your observation of people's reactions to this, when they come over and they see this, are you noticing a lot of people who might have been oblivious to this are waking up and listening to what you're saying?
I honestly thought when I started making videos about this Ukraine situation, they hit this. So this is again another part of this mass psychological operation that's going on, and even to a certain extent, I was they hit us so quickly, so immediately, with everybody on the same page of this Ukraine situation with the flags and everything. I was sitting there going, are people going to be pissed off? Are people in my community going to be pissed off that I'm talking about Ukraine in this fashion? And there's again, I just was talking about how you got to respect the audience, but you also can't lie to them. They don't want to be lied to. And so I was like, the biolabs and the money laundering, all this, I got to talk about it. And those are some of the biggest videos that ended up being on BitChute. And so I don't think anybody's buying this. I think this is just a continuation of what they've done with Black Lives Matter, with the LGBTQ movement. I think this is nothing new. I think they did this in the Iraq situation where you get a few people going out there, you utilize your propaganda arm of Hollywood and the television networks, and you just blast people ad nauseum and try to force manufacture an outcome. And again, it's nothing new. I can't remember if it was the first Iraq war or the second Iraq war, but I think that's where you get one of the world's largest protests against. And I didn't know about that until 20 years after the thing happened. And so nobody wants to be in Ukraine. These idiots on Twitter, there's probably about 2 of them. And then it's just bots the rest of the way down. Bots and turtles all the way down.
I've noticed it on Twitter.
I mean, now, what's where do you get your material? What is your source material? And where do you go to stay attuned with everything, to like, or what's a typical day like for Salty Cracker?
Typical day. What I do is I'll get up and I'll go through the Twitter feed and patriots.win, and I'll try to go through that and line those up and see kind of what everyone's talking about. And then from there, I'll go out and I'll find out what is the left-hand side talking about those topics. So then I'll go to the Daily Beast and CNN and all these other garbage rags, see what they're talking about. And I used to go to their comment section to see what the idiots were talking about, but all of them got rid of the comment section. So now you got to go take those, cross-reference them with left-wing Twitter, find out what these idiots are saying on Twitter, and then go to the other outlets like Breitbart or InfoWars or the right-leaning kind of stuff, check what they're saying, check those comment sections, sit back, and then look at how the world's actually reacting in real-world terms to what's being said, and then formulate a situational hypothesis from that.
Let me ask you this: what do you recall any big mistake that you've ever made, as a matter of fact, on a story that your crowd called you out on that you had to correct?
I was adamant that Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee. Nobody could convince me otherwise. I was sitting there going, no. I was like, come on, this dude's a tapioca brain. Look out! Even in the primaries, I was sitting there going, Joe Biden don't know what planet he's on. And I was absolutely convinced that they were going to slide Hillary Clinton in at the last moment, so she didn't have to do any debate. She didn't have to do anything. And then they just outright. How do I do this? Because we're on YouTube. I don't want to get you guys in trouble. They fortify. I've never seen such fortification since Wheaties, boys. They went out there and they fortified this election so hard. I was sitting there going, oh, that's why they didn't bring her in, because they did this out in the open. This is a dangerous move that they just did. This is a pure gamble, and no sane person is going to sign up for this job.
They detailed it in the Time magazine. I mean, it's what they did. They've got big tech, politicians, media, all controlling what people thought. They had the litigation machine on full throttle 6 to 8 months before, all in plain sight. But no, I do remember that. That was the running theory, is they were going to substitute Hillary for Biden at the last minute, and people were going to be outraged, but like they did, hold their nose and vote for her. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Now, there's still people that still think that. I mean, if suddenly they remove Uncle Joe and put Kamala in, and then Hillary is the substitute vice president, then I would give Kamala 6 months. Before she's on a special, she'll be on a Ron Brown special. We need you to take a trip to a war zone, see how that works out for you.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming, but something has to be coming. I don't know if they're going to bring in Michelle Obama. I don't know if they're bringing in Hillary Clinton. I'm just sitting there going, what is the game plan? Because the midterms look like a political bloodbath.
So
absolutely.
You're still living in California, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Have you lost friends and family from what you've been doing since you become vocal? have you made more friends than you've lost, or just a net loss of intolerant? I say people who cannot tolerate what you're professing.
I got a little, I got this, I'm a weird person. So I don't really hang out with other humans outside of the house anyway, but every single job acquaintance that I had, I don't talk to anybody anymore. And it's not, they don't know they don't know that I do this. Nobody's ever said. Only one person, two people in my family have found the channel kind of on accident back when it was recommended if you watched like Crowder or something. And one of them yelled at me, and one of them loved it. It just, dude's one of the biggest fans.
Who's got next?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Now, what is, do you plan on staying in California, or have you thought about making an escape the way others have?
Florida looking real good right now. If Florida does constitutional carry and I could walk around with a 45 on my hip, that would be awesome. My only concern, here's my big concern, because Florida looks great, Texas looks great. I don't want to go into the middle of nowhere in Montana. Sorry, Montana peds. I don't want to upset you, but I mean, Montana looks like an absolute nightmare. The problem is everybody who's fleeing California is going to those places. Like, they're going to Texas, they're going to Florida, and I don't want to make a move only to have to move again in like 5 years. I need you guys over there to start putting meth gators at the border to stop these people from traveling into your beautiful red states.
That's the funny thing is I was just down in Florida for a few days and talking to people who moved from New York to Florida, complaining about Trump. And like, it's the amazing thing. They've moved from what they've seen, political devastation of blue states, blue cities. They go to a red state, arguably maybe not so much red cities, but they go there, complain about the administration, presumably, or the politics that they just, that they fled to from what has been destroyed by the party that, they're complaining about. The concern is always, the Californians go to Texas and they're going to turn Texas red. Is it red or blue? Which I get. No, they're going to turn it blue within a matter of years, and basically go from one place, colonize, destroy, and go to another, colonize, and politically destroy. Robert, do you see that happening to Florida anytime soon?
No. Florida has moved radically toward the right. And two things. One, it's the Venezuelan and Cuban vote moving back in that direction. For a while, the Cuban younger vote was trending a little bit Democratic. That pulled back massively between 2016 and 20. When you have guys like Pitbull saying this COVID stuff is crazy, loco, we recognize what this looks like. The Cuban government's still taking credit for like China. It's why they're shutting down Shanghai. They're still taking their zero COVID policy magically worked. I mean, they're still trying to convince people of this insanity. That's why people are up on their high towers screaming bloody murder every night in Shanghai. That's what a good time is. Go out on your balcony and scream. And it's a mindset. It's a mentality, but the Cubans were one of the first groups to spot it right away. I mean, outside of your frontline populist constituencies, people like Alex, people like Salty, the others were groups like Cubans and Venezuelans. They understood, okay, this is just a pretext for a power grab, and this doesn't end well. I remember what happened to Grandpa. So the show trial and everything. So that I think because of that shift, as much as anything, I mean, Miami was only in the single digits for Biden. I mean, that's with all the fortified votes they had coming in down there. So I mean, that was probably a 3-4 point win by more naturally, shall we say. And so I think, and you see with DeSantis has cojones. He's the only Republican governor with cojones, sadly. But I mean, like going up against Disney has been living off of what people don't understand about what Disney did. Disney had it got to regulate its own community, and it went beyond just like tax benefits and special privileges. They got to police their own community. And why does that matter? You can go back and find Peter Schweitzer talking on C-SPAN in the late 1990s about Disney's pedo problem. I mean, Disney's had this problem for a while, but their special community where they got to police themselves magically kind of look like the FBI with the Democratic Party. They can't find a crime even when it's staring them in the face. And so when DeSantis takes away that special privilege protection for Disney, he's doing a lot more than just taking away some tax benefits. He's doing a lot more than taking away some zoning benefits. he's exposing everybody at Disney to all of their ability to suppress the criminality in their organization, particularly related towards children, is now gone. And I mean, and that's thanks to DeSantis. DeSantis is the only one that understands you have to fight back in this arena. You cannot continue to just cede ground politically or tactically. That's what Trump recognized. I mean, that was one of the fascinating things. So, like when I started getting into this bet on the election, I didn't know about the whole what's now Patriots.win, which was the Donald, which before that was the Donald Reddit and the rest. I started discovering all these kids, and I was like, well, where did this whole place, where do they come from? And then I got into Gamergate and all this other stuff, and I was like, I mean, the for the woke crowd to try to go after gamers was probably one of the dumbest decisions in the history of the cultural left. I mean, right up there with trying to deconstruct Star Wars and Star Trek and Marvel and all the rest, which is enraged and antagonized people who before were apolitical. But can you describe for people like that these communities are communities where you really get to hear a big part of the populist base? And it's your Kevin McCarthy's of the world don't know they exist. Your Ted Cruz's that didn't know it existed in 2016. Your Mitt Romneys still don't know it exists. They are so out of touch with the base that is reflected in the collective opinion of many of these communities. That's where you see it. And how did you sort of discover and uncover that community?
Well, because I'm a part of that community. I was yelling about Gamergate. I was yelling about these attacks on culture that at a face value and at an economic value don't make any sense. These are clearly derived for political purposes, and they're trying to. You don't have these issues that the left are banging on about. You don't have a quantifiable amount of racism and sexism and misogyny. You don't have homophobia, that type of stuff that they can actually show you. So they go out there and they purposely switch the Little Mermaid to black, or they purposely switch beloved characters. They race swap them, and then they agitate a group of people. And then they take sometimes it's not even agitation. It's just going, we see what you idiots are doing. And they go, here's the racist that we're pointing out. Here's the racist. And I'm sitting there going, well, you're calling me a racist. I'm married to a Mexican chick. I'm the world's worst racist if I'm a racist. And these aspects that they were hitting, I'm a part of those communities. Back when, you had these forums for Quake or these video games, and, I grew up in those. And then you could see the schism, by the way, because you could see a bunch of people in those environments. They got to break left, and they got to sit there and they go, oh, well, I'm going to go with these people over here, or I'm going to get yelled at. And then you got a bunch of other people out there who just don't care anymore. And the more they bang on with this, their side ain't gaining any more people. It's the other side who are recognizing, because they're this attack on the culture that they're doing. You're making yourselves be hypocrites in a record amount of time. You used to be able to gaslight people, and the gaslight would last for a generation. Well, a generation's long enough for you to keep doing this stupid stuff. But when you keep doing this in 3-month intervals, you start red pilling people real fast. And that's kind of what I've been seeing, at least.
Salty, I always do like a background check of people, and I was looking for controversy involving you. And other than the edginess of your content, you haven't had any real hit pieces. Has the media gone after you for anything you've said, anything you've done, and anything you haven't said or anything you haven't done? Because I couldn't find
not that I know of. I don't think anybody. This show's stupid. This show's crazy. If you hear the things that I'm saying, and there's toys in the background, and I got a mullet and acne on my forehead, and the lighting's horrible, and I got a PVC microphone stand, I think I'm taking advantage of the fact that this is how this leftist elitist they operate. They sit there, they look for things that don't really mean anything, and I feel like we're some sort of MAGA submarine over here. We deep below the waters. They don't even understand that we're out there. And so, I don't know. No, there might be hit pieces. I have no idea. But thank you for looking and telling me that there's none, because now I assume no.
I did a mild due diligence. I just wanted to see if you had a PewDiePie N-word moment or anything like that. But other than the edginess, you seem pretty clean. What is your status now on YouTube? Because I remember once upon a time you were having big problems with the YouTube censors, strikes, suspensions. Have you pulled the YouTube plug, or are you still using that but focusing elsewhere?
Oh no, I always assumed YouTube wasn't going to work, and so we only use YouTube over here to get people to Rumble, get people to Odyssey, get people off that platform, and so we do the show for an hour or so on YouTube, and then turn YouTube off and try to get people to these other platforms. I am YouTube goes in and out, and every now and then I'll just delete all the videos because you can see that some sort of review goes on, and what they do is they'll hit you with stuff that you said 2 years ago that doesn't even make any sense, and so we don't put the streams. We don't leave the streams up. They gave me they gave me something like 4 or 5 strikes in one day, but because they gave me they hit me with one live stream and then hit me with a bunch of other live streams, and they said, well, because we already hit you with one, these are technically strikes. It was weird because they used to just wipe you out. That's what they did to Stefan Molyneux. They gave him like 5 strikes in one day, knocked him out. They gave me 4 or 5 strikes in one day, took down one video, gave me 2 strikes. I said, okay, this is how. So I just took all the streams down, and every now and then I'll get a strike, and then they'll kick me off for 7 days. It'll be under review for 2 months. It's like this, then I win the appeal, but they've already given you the 7-day strike. And
what is the and what's the basis? Is it typically medical misinformation, election issues, or just vague community guidelines?
It's crazy stuff. Like I threatened to kill somebody. Somehow I have never gotten a medical misinformation when I say crazy stuff about this vaccine and the masks and stuff like that. I think the other thing is, I have a speech impediment apparently, and I am able to dip, dodge, and dive this algorithm. It has no idea what the hell I'm saying. And so if you just pluralize everything like one of these left-wing lunatics out there, if you talk like a left idiot, this algorithm doesn't know what you're saying, and it doesn't understand sarcasm at all either. If they can figure out how to AI sarcasm, then I'm in some real trouble. But no, it's always like I threatened to blow up Germany or something. It's crazy.
Now, how has Rumble and some of the other platforms worked out for you?
Odyssey was the first kind of other platform to reach out. They were real generous. They would give me like a library coin amplifier. I really screwed up library coin, guys. I was making extra content for them, hitting that library coin multiplier when library coin was like 30 cents a coin, and now it's worth like, I don't know, 0.3 of a penny. So that didn't work out in the long run, but it was awesome to build up these auxiliary platforms. We were doing great on DLive, and then DLive went crazy after January 6th, and we have a real good relationship with Odyssey, and we've just met the Rumble people. The Rumble people have been. I was concerned about Rumble because Rumble looks like it's going to be the next big one, and they got to play the game to a certain extent. And then the guy reached out to my wife, and we didn't even think it was real. We were like, no, whatever, bro. Like, you're not the CEO of Rumble. That doesn't make any sense. And then sure enough, she contacted Rumble itself, and they got into contact, and he was just like, hey, if you need anything, reach out to me. I'm like, holy balls. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Pavlovsky's a real deal. So
yeah.
We may have talked about you a couple of months ago.
Thank you, by the way.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's because, to his credit, because the easiest thing to do would be to back down. Easiest thing to do would be to do what DuckDuckGo has done, which has just become the mini-me of Google in their search engines. Now they're going to overtly suppress alternative media sites. But I mean, you look at this war was both COVID and, well, I'd say 3 things: the election fortification, COVID, and the war were 3 places where you were going to see whether Rumble was worth their word or not. Mm-hmm. And they didn't take down anything related to election fortification, even if other language was used, even if other F words might have been used. Like fraud, and like, well, maybe the one my mama says I can't use. And then the same with COVID. They didn't take down anything related to COVID, and they haven't taken down anything. I mean, they left RT up, And Senator Scott, that establishment hack from Florida, actually went after Rumble specifically because they had moved to Florida. Going back to one of your earlier questions, what happens with Florida politically? And they said Rumble needs to take down RT right now. And Pavlovsky said, nope, sorry, not happening. We're not going to discriminate based on content. We're not going to have like people stalking people and harassing people online. We'll have some rules to stop that kind of thing, but we're not going to engage in subject matter censorship just because the topic's unpopular with certain constituencies. And so that's credit. I think people will see Rumble will continue to match their word because of Pavlovsky's personal commitment, but also, I mean, to his credit, I had said that if Rumble was serious, they needed to go public. And when they go public, say, we are committed to a free speech platform in terms of not discriminating and being politically neutral. In other words, I understand that if you're not going to allow people to like overtly, you're not going to allow either Antifa or the Klan to openly organize on the site. Okay, I get that. But, no political-based discrimination in these controversial topics. Well, they committed to that explicitly when in terms of raising money on the market. What that means is if they ever violate that, they have a mass class action that they face. If they ever start discriminating against the Alex Joneses, the Salty Crackers, the others, then they're going to be DOA because it's the only thing that gives them a market edge, and they'll face a massive class action. So I think people will see that Rumble's the real deal. But I understand why everybody was concerned because we've seen one after the other capitulate as they go along this path. Now, how like you have your own site set up where people can go. You're also on Locals. I think it's saltycracker.locals.com. Got a nice community on there. I'm a member.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Go in and check it out. Well, where else have you found other platforms that have been useful, and how do you sort of stay one step ahead of the censors and the algorithmic manipulators?
Again, to anybody who is thinking of doing this for a living, understand that you have to work every angle. We knew right off the bat, build up BitChute, build up Odyssey, build up. We started Locals. After I talked to the guy from Pavlovsky from Rumble, he was like, come on, just go over there. It's awesome. We take less money over on Locals. I'm like, okay, cool. Build that up. You have to build up all these other platforms because you will be hit. And then eventually. Rumble integrates really well into my own personal website, but we're prepared to just run everything through the website. Much like you have these canary in the coal mine. Like InfoWars is a spectacular canary in the coal mine. If you want to get into this game, you should prepare to have to make your own website. Can I ask you? I want to ask you guys something real fast. So Alex Jones. With the Sandy Hook situation, being sued, he's filing. Sounds like he's filing for bankruptcy, Chapter 11. He's doing that to protect himself against these lawsuits, right?
Well, what happened is I can talk about it to a degree because I represented Alex and InfoWars during different stages of these cases. What happened is the plaintiffs deliberately sued a bunch of entities that they knew at least at certain points that had no assets. So they sue Alex, they sue Owen, they sue Free Speech Systems, which is the main InfoWars company, and then they sue every company that has the name InfoWars on it, right?
Well, they sued IW.
Yeah, they've sued Owen. These courts have issued default judgments against Owen for something they claim Alex didn't do. And by the way, what does this tell you? He gets a default judgment on the grounds that he didn't share financial information. And yet all this financial information is in all these plaintiff suits. So, I mean, these courts just lied. They just fabricated the law, fabricated the facts to railroad Alex Jones because they don't like Alex Jones. And what's happening in Austin courts is a disgrace. What's happening in the Connecticut courts is a disgrace. These judges are a disgrace. It's just the reality of it. I mean, he's getting sanctioned for sitting for a fourth or fifth deposition in a case he's not allowed to defend himself at trial, when normally you only get 1 day of deposition period in any case. So, I mean, the degree of discrepancy in these courts' conduct is extraordinary. You will find consistently that when courts are sanctioning parties, 9 times out of 10, it's the politically disfavored party. It has nothing to do with the law or the facts. That's the reality of it. But so the plaintiffs sue all of these they sue Owen, They sue who also had default judgments issued against him, even though he had nothing to do with what they claimed was the problem. So it shows you how these courts are completely fraudulent, not serious. But they sue all these affiliate entities. So he's got all these affiliate entities, which, as described in the bankruptcy, don't have any assets. And so the plaintiffs should have dismissed it. But they refused to dismiss him because they want to make his life miserable, because they want to wage lawfare against him. So so they knew from the get-go, because I had told them, if you leave these entities in, at some point, these entities have to file bankruptcy to protect what their function. But they refused. They're like, they wanted him to have to file bankruptcy for those entities. He himself has not filed personal bankruptcy.
So it's InfoWars, the entity that has filed bankruptcy.
Exactly. The InfoWars system, InfoWars, all that is outside of this.
Okay.
It's just these affiliates that serve little technical roles.
So
they're just making life miserable for him, and he has to file bankruptcy in order to protect the limited role those entities play.
One of them was Prison Planet TV. The other one was IW Health, which I thought maybe that was one of the supplement businesses.
It didn't serve any purpose. It's just a name. There's nothing in it.
But now, Robert, they're going. The plaintiffs are going to petition the court to suspend the stay of proceedings.
Well, what they should do is dismiss the chart. What they should have done from day one, 2 years ago, dismiss those other. But they refuse. They want to play games. They just want to make his life, because they don't care about recovery for the. I mean, none of these people, even to my knowledge, at least almost none of them, wrote a single letter complaining about Alex for 6 years, right? So they were so emotional. I mean, and what it is we're supposed to sit back and not talk about them because they had a horrible tragedy happen to them. At some point, you don't get to stand on the coffin of your dead kid to politically grandstand and violate the constitutional rights of others. Sorry, I run out of patience. These people, a lot of them, are just scammers. They're just scam artists. They didn't complain about a single thing Alex Jones said for more than 6 years. And then all of a sudden they have a complaint. No, they're just money grabbers and political harassers. That's who they are. That's what they are. Nobody wants to say it because they're like, oh man, they had a tragedy happen to them. You can't question them. You can't criticize them. They're the second coming of Jesus. They're not. They're fraudsters, scam artists, and political harassers who want to violate constitutional rights and liberties to line their pockets with even more money, because a lot of them got millions and millions and millions from other places. And we're just supposed to, and I'm just tired of being generous about it. I'm sorry they suffered a horrible tragedy. That doesn't give you the right to violate other people's rights. That doesn't give you the right to be a scam artist and a fraudster and a cheat. To pretend that you were deeply emotionally harmed when you didn't even write a letter of complaint for 6 years. You didn't write a letter of complaint, but you were so bothered by Alex Jones, you couldn't even bother to write an email. Come on.
Robert,
that's my rant.
Well, and they did, from what I understood. Someone just said Barnes is furious. I can't even get that chat anymore. It's gone. Jones offered to the plaintiffs, like it was $150,000 each per plaintiff once upon a time, or not relatively recently.
I don't know what's public and what's not public, but
okay,
there's this false story. I mean, the other thing about this that's totally false. People can go back and see what Alex Jones said on the night of Sandy Hook. He didn't say it didn't happen. He said it did happen. He just said, you know what the culprits are? They're not going to blame. They're not going to blame Hollywood culture. They're not going to blame the big pharmacy industries that is drugging up these kids with side effects of SSRIs. They're not going to blame the school system that didn't have adequate security and safety. Instead, they're going to blame the gun, because they're going to use this as an excuse to take away people's right of self-defense, which is what the Second Amendment fundamentally is. It protects the most effective means of self-defense, but it's self-defense that it protects. And that's precisely what happened. Barack Obama, Piers Morgan said, I'm going to stand on the graves of these dead kids for my political purpose. How is that a good, moral, righteous act? There's nothing about that that's moral and righteous. And that's what they did. And months into the process, a bunch of other people, including professors of media, professors that are related to people who are school safety experts, professors of philosophy, came to their own conclusion, raising questions about what happened. And here's the reality of what happened. The school system didn't have basic safety mechanisms. I mean, since Columbine, you're supposed to be able to lock the inside of the door to protect kids. They didn't even spend the money for that because the politicians were busy pocketing it for other projects. But they were hiding that. And so people that are using FOIA requests are seeing the politicians are hiding, and they assume they're hiding something worse and more nefarious. It turned out they were just hiding their own corruption that was complicit in the primary reason so many people died that day. But instead of blame those people, which, by the way, the Connecticut courts have rushed in to cover up and hush up and hide and immunize, they blame Alex Jones, who they have 7 words out of 7 million, 7 minutes of words out of 7 million plus minutes of words he'd said over the 7+ years, and that InfoWars had spread. That's what they're talking about, where he raised questions about it years later. That's it. I mean, to blame him for Sandy Hook is absurd. And the fact that so many people are doing it is absurd. And these plaintiffs are not serious plaintiffs. Almost none of them complained one single time in 7 years. They just said, let's sue, let's line our pockets, let's make a political statement. And they think you can't criticize them because they suffered tragedy. Suffering tragedy is not immunity for bad acts. And the reality is Jones is being wrongly accused. He's being railroaded by a corrupt justice system that cannot do its job because his name is Alex Jones.
Yeah, they got to shut him down. This
absolutely. It's lawfare meant. This is a guy who had not been sued in 25 years of business. Donald Trump wins, and he gets sued more than 24 times in 12 months. Not just related to these cases. All of a sudden, they're trolling through every photo he's ever published. They're trolling through every video he's ever done. They're trolling through every statement he's ever made. And ask yourself, who's been more right than anybody over the last 2 years? Who was the only guy predicting that they were going to do something like this with a pandemic as a power grab? Who was the only guy predicting that the deep state activity was up to what we have witnessed it be up to in Russiagate and Spygate and Ukrainegate and in the Hunter Biden laptop related issues? It's this guy. I mean, and they try to take him out because they've had this agenda. They try to take him out because he helped Trump get elected, and they wage lawfare against him. And you had huge corporate law firms representing the original Pepe maker for free to go after Alex Jones. And of course, it turned out, he had certain intentions with that Pepe thing that were separate than what it was all about. And taking credit for creating Pepe is still, it is a frog, folks. It's a frog. I mean, how original is it, right? You know what I mean? I like the frog, but it's still a frog. But that it was pure war, pure legal warfare. And they're forcing him to take these defensive postures just to keep his business afloat and to protect its ongoing operational basis. But they're not going to sink Alex Jones. They're not going to defeat Alex Jones. They're not going to crush Alex Jones. The irony in all this, he probably would have retired after 2016. But when you decide to wage war on him, he's not going to go gently into that good night because that's not who he is. He's going to rage and rage against the dying of the light, as he should and as we should.
Well, Salty, that was the answer to the question.
Yeah, that was a Salty inspired rant.
That's awesome. That's
now, and Salty, if you're anything like me, you're going to digest that. You're going to I have a big question in my head, and I can I can start connecting some of the dots. Not in terms of not in theorizing, just actual, what the events of the day, the events of the lawsuit. I've got a question I'm going to ask Robert privately. Salty, what well, here's another thing. What do you do for inspiration? How do you pick on the stories? I mean, are you you're following Twitter and just you see what people are talking about, or do you get tips from your crowd?
No, well, it's got to. So I'm trying to. I pull all these pieces, pull all these strings in from what people, and trust me, there is not a lack of content going on these days, and so there's a lot of different things that you can hit that are in the vein of what's happening at the moment. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to pull something that works. As I'm going through the news, as I'm doing all of this, I'm thinking of, the stupid jokes that I can jam into the video, what the thumbnail might be for the video, this type of stuff. So when I find a story where all of that clicks in, that's when I know that I'm going to be making a video on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of innumerable topics, how do you vet some of the topics to me? Like these days, so many things look like parody to me. When I see it, I was like, no, that can't be true. That's got it. And then it's like, oh my God, it's true. How do you cross-check all this?
If there's something that's immediately video worthy and making fun of, and I haven't vetted it, I'm just open and honest. I just tell people I have, like, the biolabs thing is a perfect example. The thing that got me kicked off of YouTube a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know. People, this is what people are talking about. This is interesting. It could be the case. It could not be the case. But I'm just the exact opposite of what these prostitutes are doing on these other outlets. I'm just being honest with people. Yeah, I stole that from Gerald Celente. I'm also honest where I steal my stuff.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
So yeah, I'm just usually on Patriots.win. Those dudes are really good about putting their sauce right in the comment section. And so if it's too good to be true, it usually turns out to be. But I always go through a comment section first. I always try to find other articles or. I'm just I'm not a journalist. Like I'm making fun of the stupid situation that we're in, but I'll still be more honest with you than CNN. I don't have an agenda. That's the thing. I want to get information out, and the information has to be accurate.
Have you noticed the same tendency that I've noticed is that when the story comes out, the harder the pushback from the MSM, in due time, the more likely it turns out to be true in its entirety or true in substance.
Oh, this is my new hobby. I used to be way into baseball, but my new biggest hobby is going out there and trying to be part of making these idiots over at PolitiFact and Snopes fact check stuff. And so when we go out there and we start hammering that Joe Biden pooped himself at the Vatican, number one, that's just fun to do. It's probably true. And then the best part of it is the cream, the icing on this cake is when they have to come out. They go, we get this for Pinocchio because we called him and he said that he didn't poop himself. Jen Psaki told us no. In fact, he pooped a rainbow out and it cleaned its pants. I'm like, no, idiot. Everybody knows he pooped himself. And we just got another one too. Oh, what did they? Oh, the handshaking with the ghost. When Joe Biden's completely
that was
lost.
His 81 million voters he was shaking hands.
Yeah, it's 81 poltergeists sneaking ballots in. And then they just fact checked. I'm sitting there going, we own you. Congratulations. You might have the big towers. You might have satellites up in low Earth orbit, but you ain't got the energon that we have over here. And we are pounding you idiots in this info war. We make it you react to us.
With the pooping, I didn't talk about it because I from someone who I trust on the inside, and I don't have sources. I got confirmation that it wasn't entirely true or wasn't true. So I would, and even if it is true, look, who hasn't pooped themselves for one reason or another?
I've heard a bunch of people say that. They go, I would listen to like the old Sturge show. I think everybody on the Sturge staff have crapped themselves. I'm sitting there going, I'm 42 years old. I haven't done that since I was like 6 months. My dad toilet trained me before I was a year old. I haven't pooped myself since. And I would tell you if I did. Look at this face.
Well, I'll tell you that the bunny thing, it looked like it. I was going to make a Donnie Darko reference because when he was staring at that bunny, it looked like Jake Gyllenhaal staring at the bunny from Donnie Darko. But
Robert, isn't that insane?
Yes, we live in a world where the Easter Bunny is running the White House.
That's
a guy
crazy.
in an Easter Bunny outfit is taking the. I mean, it's that's why I say it's parody beyond parody. The Onion now is outdated because they can't stay ahead of the curve. Only Babylon Bee can stay one step ahead of this parody world because you have to be.
Did you see the video where the bunny one of those? It's multiple bunnies, and one bunny grabs him, and he looks like he shorts himself during that. He goes, "Oh, it's Easter Bunny." His earpiece is ringing off.
It's disturbing humor. Towards the end of Reagan, there was a little bit of concern that Reagan was starting to lose it a little bit. Nothing like this. He never lost it in front of the world like this. This is on a daily basis.
He didn't have handlers.
It's humiliation on top of humiliation.
Oh yeah, he's got when he gets in the back, he's yelling at me. The dude's an anger addict, and so when he gets in the back, he's throwing stuff at his tapioca's all over the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. I feel. Look, I stay off the making fun of this issue bandwagon, not because I think I'm better. I feel bad for him, and like I compare. How old is Joe Biden? He's 70, 74, 76?
78, 79.
Yeah, he's going to be in his 80s.
He's about the same age as my dad, and my dad is sharp as a tack compared to Joe Biden. And we still, we within family, we make jokes.
Compared to Joe Biden, it's going to be a low standard.
I genuinely feel bad. I look at Joe Biden, and I do see my grandmother, the same face, the same look in the eyes when she was in a more advanced state of dementia. I don't know how it's gotten this far, and it's a testament to the system being controlled by forces beyond the token figurehead. But no, I genuinely feel bad about it. It's not even a source of. I feel better making fun of Kamala Harris with her idiotic statements on space that she thinks are like, what's the guy's name from? He's got the deep voice. He hosted the science show. Tyson.
Neil deGrasse
Neil
Tyson.
deGrasse Tyson. It's like she thought that was a Neil deGrasse Tyson moment in its spirituality. I can make fun of her, but Joe Biden, I feel bad. I feel bad for what's going on, and it's terrible.
Oh no, listen, I feel bad too. Don't get me wrong. My best friend growing up, his dad just died of dementia. I do feel bad, but I don't feel bad when I'm doing it to Joe Biden because Joe Biden's a criminal. So just
exactly, and he's the president of the United States. I was like, yes, he belongs in a nursing home. That's the point. So I mean, it's you don't get to be president of the United States when you're a dementia candidate. Sorry.
No. Yeah, I'm losing a little bit of my humanity. I'll be honest with you. There's aspects of me where I sit there and I go, oh man, I have got to rack up on some church points after this is all said and done, because you could just, again, I wouldn't have made fun of this dude 2 years ago, but here we are. And again, you call somebody a Nazi terrorist, this is what you get back.
And Salty, you're so in, what's the word, in simpatico with your followers. Like one person in the chat, I couldn't bring it up in time, said, don't feel bad. He's a criminal, been stealing from American citizens for 40 years. I still feel bad for people who don't even feel bad for themselves. But
well, I mean, this is a guy who bombed a family in Afghanistan and then falsely claimed it was a terrorist. I mean, killed a bunch of kids. So it's like I have no sympathy whatsoever. That he deserves all the mockery, savage mockery he's got coming. Yet I feel bad that for other people that have that condition, but I don't feel bad for him. Now, I think we got to let you go. Where can people find you as like a one-stop shop, and also the backup places they can find you in case that's unavailable?
I don't know.
I'll put the links up there. You're at saltycracker.locals.com.
They could find the Salt Queen somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Just I think it's saltmustflow.com. Hold on a second.
I think the main website is
just saltmustflow.com.
That's like a one-stop shop. Has all the videos, has the memes,
you'll find
has
everything
the merch.
there. Oh yeah.
I'll ask Mrs. Salty to send me the links. I'll put it in the pinned comment on this stream when it's up afterwards. I know people are going to be trimming and clipping some of these for highlights, so go ahead. There have been some memorable highlights. Salty, what's your schedule like these days? You do daily live streams?
No. I don't know how. Listen, Alex Jones is probably a robot. I don't know how that dude can do that show every day. I only do 3 days a week. We do Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and then I do daily posts to Rumble and YouTube and those things, like a much shorter video. But locals now, I'm putting stuff up on there too. But yeah, three shows a week. It takes. I am not complaining. Don't take this as a complaint, because it's the best job on the planet. But it's a bit of a workout. I get a little bit animated and I scream a lot, and I try to put a lot of research into the topics. And so 3 days a week is all I could probably do at this point without the wife leaving me. And I can't listen. I'm only alive because she's around, so we can't have her leave.
Oh, well, I'm going to read. There was a $500 Rumble rant on Rumble, and it's from shall not means shall not. All right, that's a First Amendment. Second Amendment, sorry. Salty and Viva Live. Did she threaten to divorce you? I got my eye on you, Queen. Well, let's not stand on ceremony, gentlemen. Tell the world what you think, because the world will be better for it. Thank you very much. Shall not means shall not. And I'm going to read a bunch of other chats when you're no longer here, Salty. And Robert, if you're sticking around. But I don't want to do it with you guys here. Salty. Fantastic as always. Man, that's fantastic. What if you have a word of wisdom or a word of humor that you want to leave us with? Inspiration, what would it be?
Oh, that's really putting me on the spot, brother.
What's your next video? What's your next topic going to be about?
Oh, I was going to make fun of CNN Plus already pulling the plug. I've been hitting that pretty hard on locals last few days, and it looks like they're going to skip the wind down, just fire everybody tomorrow. So I was going to probably hit that one up.
Yep. Chris Wallace, I guess, is going to be looking for a new job right away.
Can you imagine that, dude? That dude's he definitely wants to strangle an intern. He wants to pull out some Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough energy, allegedly.
Exactly. He wants to go full Joe Scarborough on something.
He's like, oh man, this agent of mine got the coup for something like this and had a heart attack. I guess that's what they say. I don't know.
Salty, I love it. First of all, thank you for coming on. People do say, oh, you just talk to a camera. For you to have the humor that you have, the insight you have to have knowledge, and you have to be like up to speed with culture, politics, entertainment, and everything. You know, just to go to the Mika Brzezinski joke, some people might not get it. Google Joe Scarborough, you'll get the joke. But yeah, it's phenomenal stuff. So thank you, thank you tremendously for coming on. Let's do it again, and on any channel, on either of our channels.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. This was I was a little bit, I gotta be honest with you. I was listening to the first hour and I was trying to eat something. I was sitting there going, what am I doing? I'm a mess. I'm a mess of a human being. So thank you so much for making this pleasurable.
Absolutely.
And the world needs more fantastic messes like you, Salty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure.
All right, we'll talk soon.